here we were, both working full time, making way more money than we'd ever made, and we had nothing in savings. We had, we didn't know where our paychecks were going. So I spent one night, I was on night shift at the time, and it was one of my off nights, and at 3 in the morning, I'm sitting on the couch like, what is happening here? So I went through the check register, and I added up everything that I felt was not necessary. And I did it for 3 months. I went back 3 months, and there was all of our money at restaurants and everything the kids ever wanted to attend, and clothing and shoes and camping gear, and just all this stuff. And I thought, what in the world are we doing here? So we did a 30-day spending freeze, and I said, we're not buying anything, nothing besides grocery, gas, and as Dave Ramsey puts it, these 4 walls. That month we paid $1,900 towards our debt.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jared Basson with Mark McCain, and you are listening to Triumph Every Day, where we discuss the journeys that shaped the lives of our guests and how it brought them to where they are today. It's been a while, and
we've took a hiatus, but we're back now for a very special guest.
Added feature of holding the microphones.
Wow, core strength.
All right, we have Eleanor Blair, or as what are you on Facebook? Eleanor, what's your maiden name?
Oh, my maiden name is Farrell.
Eleanor Farrell Blair. There we
Yes.
go. Welcome, Eleanor.
Thank you.
Eleanor's been with. How long have you been part of the gym? It feels like it's been a long time,
It'll
but
be 3 years in March.
so yeah,
Wow.
definitely a long time.
Time flies.
Yeah, it does.
I feel like recently you've hit a little bit more of a stride with a lot of things in your life, whether it comes to nutrition, exercise. Not to say you weren't doing great before, but I feel like you've definitely really come into your own with figuring out exactly what you're striving for at this point. Yeah?
Yeah, I feel that too.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
What was that change for you?
I think seeing the progress in my own kids here. Michaela and Alex have grown so much being here. So they've really pushed me. Michaela's pushed me to become, I feel like, a better mom.
I feel I've found pictures of Alex from probably right when you guys started, and it was like he was like a little kid.
Yes.
And he's no longer a little kid.
He has really come into his own. And
Yeah.
Huge change in confidence, everything. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I won't dive in too quickly there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from, and what you do and all that kind of good stuff.
Well, I'm from Aurora, Indiana, just across the river. So that's where I grew up. I went in the Navy straight out of high school.
Wow.
I
don't know if I knew that.
Yeah, straight out of high school. Served as a military police officer
Jeez.
for just a couple months short of 5 years. Went to college while I was in. Had our oldest son while I was in. We actually met in Japan and then married 2 years later in Japan. And had our oldest. Got to San Diego. Continued to go to college. Got discharged, honorable discharge. My time was up. Came back here because my mom was not well at the time.
When you say came back here, Northern Kentucky?
Came back to Aurora.
Aurora?
Yeah,
Okay.
Aurora, Indiana. Continued my college, worked through my bachelor's, master's, worked full time. Had 2 more babies in the mix of that. And worked as a college admissions advisor for about 9 years, and then took my current role with the 911 center.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your story is way cooler than mine. I just want to throw it out there. You met your husband in Japan?
Yes, after I'd been there about 2
So
months.
you were like on a ship or like?
No, I was fortunate enough to be shore duty the whole time I was
Shore
on.
duty?
Yeah, he was on a ship.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What'd you think of Japan?
I loved it.
Yeah.
We'll go back in a minute. Yeah,
I've heard
It's probably why you got married there.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So we have a marriage certificate that's in Japanese that's translated to English.
Wow.
Yeah.
how'd that whole thing shake out? So you guys get engaged and like
Yeah, we came home. We'd been dating about a year and a half. Came home, bought engagement rings here to tell, my engagement ring here to tell our parents that, hey, we were going to do this. Went back to Japan for about 6 more months. We had about 6 months left. And then ended up, we were going to be separated. We weren't married yet, so we were going to be separated. And they said, well, the only way to keep you together is if you're married.
Oh. So that made it easy.
Yeah,
like, well, we're going to do this eventually, so.
We went out to the Japanese courthouse, and that was that. And I didn't tell my parents at the time. He told his, I didn't tell mine. And
wow.
Because we had already paid for the reception hall. We'd done all this stuff. So.
How does that conversation happen when you get back?
Well, it didn't. So we came back in October and had our real wedding.
Well, that's a very cool story.
So when did you tell them that you were officially married in Japan then?
My mom and dad they weren't very clear on it. They weren't real sure if we'd gotten married because I didn't want to tell them because they'd spent all this money and,
Do they know now or are they just finding out on this podcast?
No, my brother actually found out about 10 years after the fact when he saw our marriage certificate on our wall and said, oh, that's cool. You had your marriage certificate translated to Japanese. No.
Oh, no.
Light bulb moment.
And he was actually in our wedding. So he said,
wow.
But I stood up there with you. You guys were already married? Yeah.
That is incredible.
We were.
Very cool.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So then after you left the Navy, then where'd you go again?
We came back here. We went from Japan to San Diego, did a couple years in San Diego, and then came home here. Back to
where is Aurora?
Just across the river when you pass like the Argosy Casino or Hollywood Casino, whatever it is now. The next town.
Got it.
That you go through.
Gotcha. And you've been here ever since.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How did you get into the whole 911 field?
Well, obviously I had the military police background. So I started out as a criminal justice major with my degree and then ended up changing over to business and I received an MBA. But worked at the college for about 9 years. Kids were middle school age. We had just moved over here. Was really struggling with finding them transportation after school, getting them involved in stuff after school. So I was just going to leave my full-time job at the college and get them through their middle school and high school years. And this position opened up at the 911 center, and it was 14 days a month, but considered full-time. So I thought, well, this would be perfect. I could be night shift, be there to get them on and off the bus, and
so you made sacrifices.
More money. Yeah, it was more money than what I was making in higher ed. So
that's pretty, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I already had the certifications from when I was in the military. I had received some of those certifications already. So it was just a matter of renewing those again. So I made the sacrifice I was really worried about the kids getting through that middle school and high school time period.
Yeah. What, we don't have to go into any detail of specific calls or things like that, but what kind of, you're generally talking to people probably on the worst day of their lives in a lot of cases. Mm-hmm. How difficult is that on a regular basis to deal with?
It's incredibly difficult.
I'm sure you also get some silly calls.
We get some silly calls, which
we can maybe talk about those too.
Break that up, but yeah, you are talking to someone who's in the worst moment of their life for sure. But on the flip side of that, it makes you incredibly grateful for what you may have going on in your own life. So as long as you keep that perspective, I don't think it affects you as much, but there's always those calls that just stick with you and makes you wonder, should I have started CPR with that person sooner? Should I, so you question yourself and, but you just got to work through that.
What's maybe the general, I've never had to call, knock on wood, maybe one or two times, but I don't think there's anything that was life-threatening at the time. What kind of things are running through your mind when someone calls with, someone who's been hurt or something like that?
Really, obviously, the first thing is to get their location, and it's shocking how much people are not aware of their surroundings. They don't know where they are. So that's obviously the first thing. But then you're immediately thinking, what can I do to help them? What can I do to get this situation, the police there as soon as we possibly can? And then you also have to think, what am I sending my officer into? What am I sending my first responder into? So you go from trying to figure out what's going on with them, are they safe, then determining, okay, what's my first responder going into?
Yeah, that's a high stressful situation.
It's probably why
like
14,
I think I'm starting to sweat just
yeah,
listening.
14 days a week is definitely full time. I mean, because you need that break.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's 14. Yeah, it's 14 days a month.
A week.
Yeah, a month. So
This guy doesn't know how much days in a week are.
So people are like, oh, you have, 14 to 16 days off a month. Well, we are on call a couple days a week or a month.
Yeah, see,
So,
it's not just me.
Yeah, not just you. So, but you need that time. The first day off is really recovering.
Yeah.
From the 12-hour shift you just came off.
I get that vibe. Your husband's a nurse.
Yes.
I get that vibe from nursing, members here, members that are nurses and doctors as well. Like anyone that's dealing with that trauma constantly, I feel like that would be, in our world of like CrossFit, it's like doing like all the classes in one day.
Yeah.
We're like, oh man, like that's a lot. And that's from a coaching, but then almost it's, if we like actually did the workouts, you're working out 8 hours a day because you guys are on high alert because you don't know.
Or a
when that
person
next
gets
call's
hurt
coming.
every single class.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So I think it's, like you said, that perspective, I'm sure that you can draw some positives from that, but at the same time, it's definitely, it's almost unavoidable that it's draining.
It is. It's absolutely draining, but I've got some great coworkers that are a lot of fun and keep
met
things
some
lively.
of them.
You've met some of them. But I also have my husband, who is a cardiac cath lab nurse, where he's dealing face to face with trauma. So that's good to have.
Kind of bounce things off of each other. Yeah.
Very good to have him.
What are some of the funnier things that people have called? You don't have to be specific with names. Maybe some general.
I think the one that sticks out in my mind the most is I hadn't been there very long, and a lady had called, and she was having a domestic with her husband, and they had asked if there were any weapons involved in this, and she said, well, he said she's throwing peanut butter jelly sandwiches at me.
Oh, jeez.
And
Is that a
all
weapon?
I can hear down the hall is the police officer start singing "Peanut Butter Jelly Time" as he was responding, to that call. So that was probably the one that
That's hilarious.
sticks out.
That's amazing.
Apparently, she was making his lunch, and his lunch consisted of peanut butter and jelly, and
He didn't want that?
no, and it went downhill from there. So that one sticks out.
Oh
to
my
me.
gosh. Well, hopefully they're doing well now.
Yes, I hope so.
I feel like that's a
hope so.
fight everybody who's ever been in a relationship has had.
Yeah.
So where and when does kind of fitness come into your life?
Well, it comes into my life after every day when I get off work. I come straight here.
Yeah. When did you start kind of, I feel like everyone has a moment where they're like, wow, I need to either do something, or I miss this aspect of my life, or, like for you, I think a lot like, what can I do with my kids that makes them, be a little bit more involved? Was there an actual moment, or is it just a gradual thing?
Yeah, it was actually Michaela. I'm going to blame it on Michaela. She was involved in the Girls on the Run program, starting in, I think it was 2nd or 3rd grade, where they did a 5K at the end of the 8 to 12 week training period. So she did her first one, and of course, you needed to have a parent or somebody go with you to this 5K. And I think she was 8 or 9 at that time, I want to say. And I said, well, I'll do it with you. No problem. 5K, that,
I was in the Navy.
I was in the military.
Yeah.
It's fine. So we did this 5K, and it was awful. I just thought,
Of course
I
it is.
could.
You're running.
I just thought, well, I can do this no problem. Well, it was on a Saturday, and I just remember spending the rest of the weekend on the couch.
Oof.
and thinking, this isn't right that I was just outrun by my 9-year-old. So that was probably
You get some self-awareness.
yeah. So anyway, every year after that, she did it. It was twice a year, every year after that, and I started running after that. And then I made the boys and my husband do the 5Ks with us every time she had one, and then it just kind of went from there. We were doing other 5Ks on the weekends, added some 10Ks in there, did the Flying Pig half a couple of times, and
That's
actually was so into it that I'd asked the college that I worked at if I could do a 5K to raise money for scholarships. So I was the race director for the 5K there at the college, raised money for scholarships, and then that 5K is still in place
Wow.
there.
Good for
So
you.
that's kind of cool.
That's awesome.
That's fantastic. What's that race called?
Well, it was at that time called the Ivy Tech Trot. So
Okay.
raised money for the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society students.
Okay.
They've changed the name a couple of times on it, so I'm not sure what it is now. They're having one actually tomorrow. That is the Ivy Tech Monster Madness for Halloween. So.
Awesome. That's
Where's
great.
the school at?
In Lawrenceburg.
Lawrenceburg?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's awesome. I mean, a lot of people, I feel like that's, a common occurrence where maybe a kid, you have this realization of like, I'm not where I need to be. And then there's a response, right? And that's ultimately what you can control. Us as individuals, people that might be listening, you can respond to the event. The event was the 5K. The result was, oh boy, my 9-year-old beat me. And then your response was, I need to do something, which inevitably, which led to you starting a race to have scholarships.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
You should be really proud of yourself. That's awesome.
It was
And
a lot
now
of
you're
fun.
here. So when did CrossFit or what, did someone drag you here? Like, how did you find us?
No, I had been going to a different gym and it closed. And it closed actually around the same time that I had lost my mom. So I didn't know what to do with myself. I had lost 40 pounds at that point. Wanted to find something that I could really enjoy. I was really struggling with a lot of inflammation, just not feeling well, and I felt like it was from the running. Like I felt like I was just really, really inflamed.
Running is never the answer.
So I started playing around with weights a little bit. My husband at the time was weightlifting 5-6 days a week, so he was showing me some things, and I thought, there's no way I can't do this. Went to a doctor, my family doctor, and she said, well, you just need to slow down. You're at an age 36, 37 where, you just need to back off.
You're over the hill.
Things. Oh, yeah.
I mean, geez.
And I left there furious.
Yeah. Doctors are
Like,
kind of interesting
I
people
can't-
sometimes for how smart they
I
are.
am 36 years old. I'm not going to
Yeah.
lay down and die right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway, she referred me to a rheumatologist, thinking, well, you've got some issues going on here. And so I went to the rheumatologist, and luckily she said, you need to lose weight and you need to eat better.
Wow, what a difference of an answer.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And she said, there's no reason that you can't be lifting weights and you can't be doing these things. So
I like this person.
yeah. Anyway, she explained to me, you need to eat clean. You don't eat processed stuff. You don't eat these things. And so anyway,
How long ago was that?
that was about 7 or 8 years ago.
Okay.
So that changed everything for me, because I thought I was eating clean and I thought I was eating great things. And she said, no, you're not. I don't want you to eat anything processed. I want you to stick to the perimeter of the grocery store. If there's something in the label you can't pronounce, I don't want you eating it. So anyway, after meeting with her, that was when I had lost the 40 pounds. So I told her, I said, there's no way I can lose this. I've never been that size. And she said, yeah, you can. And I did.
Yeah.
And
That's
so she was the
awesome.
one that encouraged me with the strength training. And then I went to that gym for several years, and then they closed. And then after I lost my mom, the
It's a
weight
tough
started
business. Yeah. Sorry.
creeping on. And about a year later was when I called you. I just started Googling
Right.
CrossFit and strength training, and you guys just kept coming up, and the reviews were great. The fundamentals, where you offer the fundamentals for them to come in, you were the only one that I could find that offered more than just one. And I needed that. I needed somebody to teach me, and
Everyone does.
yeah.
Yeah.
I implement that saying into anything. You know, we always say that it's like learning a new language. Like, you would go take a course on learning a language. You wouldn't go to like a one-day seminar. Like, you just can't do that. It's not how you're retraining, you're relearning how to move, how to work different things in your body that haven't moved that way in a while. So you need more than, in reality, you need more than just the fundamental sessions, but you have to stop at some point. And I think that you taking the time to kind of probably do a little bit of research, instead of just jumping into things is definitely helpful as well. What are some of the kind of deciding factors for you to, and I don't want you to just talk about like, oh, you guys are great, but what were some of the things that you were looking for in a gym and community that ended up it being here?
Well, I think I was shocked that people greeted me when I came in, because I can remember one of the first people that greeted me was Judy.
Oh man, she's a rock star.
She came up and asked my name, introduced herself, and a couple other people came up after that, and I thought, wow, this is great.
Special.
This is weird, but
yeah,
this is
it's
great.
weird at first, but
yeah. And will this continue? Like,
right.
Will this continue?
Who is that weird person?
How much are they? How much are they're paying these members to say hi to me?
Yeah. So, but I really did almost put it in reverse and pull back out of the parking lot. I mean, it took everything in my being to walk through that.
And that's where we try and, in the way that we handle things now is like, one of our underlying sayings that Mark and I have are, we want to meet you where you're at. Like, I understand what it feels like to be the outlier and feel completely out of place. Mark does as well. Like anybody, maybe not in a gym, so to speak, but like in many other facets of my life, do I feel super out of place. Like, and if there was someone there to walk me through it, it would make things so much easier, And so that's where we try. We want to meet you where you're at and explain that, like, you don't have to be this rock star athlete to exercise. That's all we're doing is exercising. Put whatever label you want on it. All we're doing is exercising,
Yeah, and I think to second that, like, the more you can lean into those kind of environments where you're like, oh, I don't know, I don't really want to go in, and then look, you went in, and here we are 3 years later, and we're going to get into your successes you've had with us, and those didn't come easily. Like, you've had setbacks, and you've come back, and it's definitely your mindset and everything like that. But so many people, when it comes to fitness, kind of do what's comfortable. They kind of stay in their lane, or like say, hey, it's easy to go run, so I'm just going to run and run and run. Or, I'm going to go through the door at a bigger gym that's got a low monthly rate, and I'm just going to kind of piecemeal workout together. That's all stuff that I know how to do, or it's not really challenging. Minimally on a day-to-day basis here, you will be challenged with the workout. And that doesn't mean that you're going to have to lift all the weights and do all the things. And that's just not here. It's obviously tons of gyms all across, the world for that matter. But the point is, you came in, so people that are on that same train that you were, like, man, I just want to put it in reverse and pull out. And look, I've literally seen people do that in the parking lot. And I want to just like run down the street and tell them to come back and it's going to be okay. But until you make that mindset flip, which you clearly did, like, hey, I'm going to do this. And then I know, like, early on you even had a setback. It was like your shoulder, your wrist. And you very easily, that's like a common story whenever you get involved with weights, like, oh, I got hurt, so now I'm done. That's just how, woe is me. I can't catch a break. But guess what? You were like, you know what, Mark? I'm doing this. And I had no doubt. And then obviously you get momentum with your son and your daughter coming in. And now, I look at you guys as unstoppable. I really do when I see you come into the gym. So,
yep. And also, I don't, again, like, for both Mark and I, like, we don't want to make this about us. You're the one doing the work. We're just supplying a place to do it. So, I mean, definitely kudos to you and your just will and, you know, testament to just how hard you work that you are where you are now. So, you know, we're just providing the place to do it at. So thank you for being a part of it. So Alex and Michaela, like, where do they kind of fall into the picture at?
Oh my goodness. Well, with Michaela, you know, she saw me doing it, and Alex started first. He started
Alex
with the
came
team boot camp that summer.
Yep, coming for a little summer boot camp.
Came in for the summer boot camp. Michaela saw him doing that, and she said, well, I would like to do the next boot camp. I said, well, if you do the next boot camp, because it was a 5 a.m. boot camp, then if you do this, I will pay for your membership. But you have to do it the 3 days a week for the whole 12 weeks. And she was a senior in high school. She said, I will. And she did.
Your kids are so much better than I was at that age.
And she did, and she loved it. And I mean, the first few months, I think all of us really, there were a lot of tears outside of here with, what are we doing?
Yeah,
you know,
the way Jared treated you.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
But to see her and him both struggle through that and still come back, that was...
It's just in you. I don't know how to say that. Like, that's how you develop grit, you know, all these like kind of characteristics that I have no doubt, like Michaela, you know, as young as she is, she's going to go on to be successful.
Yes.
And whatever she does.
Yes.
Because she has that attitude. And Alex the same way. So it's just like Jared said, I'm very jealous of them. You know, I'm in my early 30s now, and I feel like I'm just starting to develop some of the skills they have already.
I'm just learning how to wake up at that time.
5 o'clock. What is that?
Yeah, so
I'll be up till 11 p.m. I can't do 5 a.m.
Yeah, I can't either. Either. And I was really, shocked that she really stuck through it, because there were mornings where she was not a happy camper.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, of course you're going to have that.
Absolutely.
So there were a couple mornings that I even came in with her because I thought if she's getting up,
You're going to do it.
I'm going to get up with her. So, and then at the end of that, we ended up doing the flying pig, the half.
Wow.
So that was big for her. She had senior prom the night before, so didn't get home till
Wow.
Jeez. Did the pig the
2:30
next
in the
day?
morning, and then we were up at 4:30 leaving for the pig.
Wow.
So
That's awesome. And not to just push past that, but I do want to talk a little bit about how it feels like these wins in your life start to bleed over more so into financial realm and in food. And like, I'm seeing you post things that are, just related to basically, for lack of a better term, cleaning up your life. Like you clean up your diet, you clean up your exercise, you're cleaning up your financial life. Like, so how do these other things start with you? Because it hasn't just been overnight,
right.
but now you're seeing the kind of the fruits of your labor.
Yeah. Gosh, I mean, it really started a couple years ago with our finances anyway. Realizing that we had always been pretty much one income. Somebody had always been home with the kids. Somebody had always worked the other shift or part-time. So it was, here we were both working full-time, making way more money than we'd ever made. And we had nothing in savings. We had, we didn't know where our paychecks were going. So, I spent one night, I was on night shift at the time, and it was one of my off nights, and at 3 a.m, I'm sitting on the couch like, what is happening here? So I went through the check register, and I added up everything that I felt was not necessary. And I did it for 3 months. I went back 3 months, and there was all of our money at restaurants, and everything the kids ever wanted to attend, and clothing and shoes and camping gear and just all this stuff. And I thought, what in the world are we doing here? So we did a 30-day spending freeze, and I said, we're not buying anything, nothing besides grocery, gas, and as Dave
Essentials.
Ramsey puts it, these 4 walls. that month we paid $1,900 towards our debt.
Wow.
Yeah. So we didn't quite do it the Dave Ramsey way because we still contributed to retirement, and we still did some vacationing in there.
It worked out.
But it worked out. So yeah, we've worked very, very hard in the last 10 months to clean all that up.
So what are some of the outcomes of that? Because I just saw that you just posted about your zero debt outside of your mortgage, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So what were some of the things that you got to pay off?
So we paid off my student loan from my
Huge.
graduate program, which was unneeded. It was an unnecessary student loan because my schooling was paid for. But I, used it to pay off the debt we had at the time. And so really that's debt from 14 years ago from my graduate program
Wow.
that, we didn't need to do. The rest of it was just what was on a credit card from me continuing to transfer this credit card balance from whenever it was. I just kept transferring it to a 0%, So it's easier to just let that auto draft go through. And so we really didn't have a tremendous amount of debt, but it was a burden, kept it around like a pet, like he says.
Yeah.
It's just an auto draft.
What's that feel like now?
It's incredible. It's incredible.
It's freeing, right?
We've got money in emergency savings. We had car repair this week that we'd been holding off on that was $1,300. That just write a check for it.
Yep.
So yeah.
I don't feel like that's a coincidence. You know what I mean? From just a strong mother like yourself, raising your kids the way you have. I feel like you guys are so tight knit too. Like your husband, I know he's not here, but he's been here before. I've met him. Tremendous guy. I feel like the only one I haven't met is your oldest son.
Yes.
And I'm sure he's awesome too. But I would love any type of wisdom. Jared's wife's pregnant. I'm I'm married is what I'm trying to say, and headed down the family path. I think everyone figures it out at different times in their lives, and it's clearly like it wasn't like you guys didn't have it figured out with raising your kids. Like they definitely are very polite. They show up on time. They put their stuff away. All this stuff. So anything at all in that regard, whenever you started seeing this transformation, obviously with your kids, but how have you guys built like culture within your family?
I think mostly just respect. We try to respect each other's boundaries. Obviously I'm dealing with a 21-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 17-year-old at this point. So, just knowing that they're entitled to a bad day too. That's been big for me, especially when I think maybe they're getting an attitude with me or whatever. I have bad days too. So I need to kind of take a step back when they have a bit of an attitude.
Don't always crack the whip just because you're the mom kind of thing.
Yeah, but also I think personal responsibility is big in our house. And this a little bit ties back to the finances, I guess. We've always known that our kids would pay half their tuition. Always. We've always said that we will pay half and you will pay half. But you're going to pay up front and then we will reimburse you. So that has given them buy-in.
Wow.
So with our oldest, when he was at Gateway, because we chose to send him there because we could pay cash for it, and transfer to a 4-year school, he paid up front, and then as his grades filtered in, we reimbursed.
Wow.
So we did that the first 2 years. So by doing that, it allowed him to save for his 3rd and 4th year.
Wow.
So he will graduate debt-free, and that's what we're going to do with Michaela as well. So they've always worked. They paid half of their car. They pay their car insurance. They pay their gas money. So
it's so important to learn about money early. I still have student loan debt. We just paid a big chunk of it off, which was awesome. But it is like I'm trying to envision like a chain with the big like ball on it, like the big black. That really is what it's like. It's kind of that cloud over your head. It kind of follows you around, and I'll tell you what, you're doing an amazing service to your kids and their future.
yes.
And again, it doesn't mean that just because you have debt, you're doomed or whatever. Like, we're doing all right, but it's just so different. And I wish, like what you just said there, like that would have been maybe our approach, like to college. And be like, you know what, maybe I would have went to a different school or whatever. But again, that's kind of
signing your name on the dotted line at 19.
it's you don't have the perspective.
Yeah.
We've talked about perspective and self-awareness. You just don't know what you don't know. So it's not like, you can sit here and call me a dummy for doing it. Look, probably millions, at least hundreds of thousands of kids did that.
Yeah.
And guess what? It's a scam, and we're just now kind of figuring that
Right.
out. And whenever you're crippling these kids with debt with high interest, it's just not the right thing.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we're at a place now, I feel like, in society where people are at least educating themselves, and
going down different routes if need be.
Mm-hmm.
Being a little bit smarter about, and I won't get in like the high horse of like the college experience, but like that's what we were told. That's what like that's what you do.
Question.
That's what you do. And I was, I think I was the first one in my family outside of my mom to go to college and all these things. So it was like, it's this exciting thing, but at the same time, it's like, did I have to have that experience 3 hours away from home, or could I've done this XYZ at a closer area and save money? And we just paid off my student loans last year, and I'm 34 now, so 33 at the time. So it's like one of those things where, again, catching this early on, I guess to the point, like Mark's point is a very good service to your kids and to your family. And again, I don't think that there's any coincidence that your success with that, your success in the gym, your success in the kitchen is just by happen chance. It's a cognitive decision that you have to make day in and day out to make active changes in your life. If it hurts every time you walk and you just keep walking on it,
Right.
it's never going to get better. You have to find the root of the problem, like you did with your finances, like you did with your health, like everything. Like, you have to make this cognitive choices. I'm going to pick X path instead of Y path every single time it comes up. And if I go down the wrong path now and again, I can always correct it. So I guess that's the underlying reason for anybody's success, is they continually make the right decision, even if it's difficult, more often than not.
Yeah.
And I guess it can be as simple as that.
And I mean, we've had some difficult months, and we've had difficult months where I think back when Michaela first looked at going to Christ for her nursing degree. I said, well, if you do this, I need you to take as many classes as you can while you're still in high school and that summer before at Gateway, because this is going to save us a tremendous amount of money.
Yeah.
And she didn't really fully understand that. And so we went through those numbers with her. And, of course, that meant it was more of a burden on her for sure, taking college classes along with her high school curriculum. But she buckled down and she did that because she knew it was going to make a difference overall. And, by her making that decision to move forward with the Gateway classes, that saved $8,000 alone. But I really think you just, for us, we are always very real with our kids. We don't hide anything. We are very open about mistakes that we've made. And I think
that's what we try and do here a lot too. Like,
Yeah.
I want everyone to know, like if Mark and I are talking about our experiences, it's not so that you can hear about Mark and I's experiences. It's because we've screwed up way more times when it comes to either the business or fitness that most people have. So if we can curb some sort of injury or some sort of metaphorical injury in a business, I would like to do that. I just had lunch with a buddy of mine where he's just starting out within his first year in their business, and it's like, hey, try this because we did it this other way and it was not good. So anytime you can give someone some insight, it's only going to help them. And the other half of that is being open to other people's insight.
Yes.
Well, and it's the best way to build relationships too, right? When you can be vulnerable with
When you
people,
can
because
be
what you're
real.
saying, if you just are this kind of authoritative figure that doesn't make any mistakes, like your kids aren't going to be able to relate to you.
Right.
It's just like you have to get on their level and understand, like, hey, it's okay. Like, obviously we expect this grade or whatever, but it's not the end of the world if you get one bad grade on a test.
Yes.
All right, or whatever. I'd love you to share how much weight the Blairs have lost.
Oh
If there's a running count, it doesn't have to be exact, but I know you guys are doing great.
Do you guys have like one of those little thermostats on the wall? Like you're doing like a school fundraiser?
We probably should have.
You should do like a person though.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. Michaela has lost about 45 to 50 pounds.
Wow.
The inches though for her is
great.
just phenomenal. Alex has lost about 30.
Excellent.
Also gotten both of them have become extremely strong.
Yes.
It's not like they're just like
that's so
skinny.
Yes.
That's like the thing that everyone's after too when you come to the gym, right? How do I become smaller but stronger?
Yeah.
They've done that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then I've lost about 18. My husband, who obviously doesn't go here, but he's lost 63.
Wow.
And our oldest, who's very skinny, has gained about 15 because he goes to the gym every night we talked about this at 8:30 at night with his group of buddies.
I used to do that.
That's
it's
where Mark and I met. You know that?
Night at Urban Active.
Yeah, every night he works out. So, and again, he started working out because he saw us coming here.
It's contagious.
Yeah, he saw us coming here, but he had this group that he was already kind of with. So, it's funny now to hear their conversations because Michaela and Alex will say, hey, well, why don't you try this? And so they're having this whole conversation that I'm not even involved in, which is really kind of cool.
And you've definitely set a lot of people on a path to better themselves. So you're not a bragging type person, but I'll brag on you for a little bit. You definitely love having you in class, love having you. The Blairs. I mean, it's cool just to see you guys come in. When we did that internal competition with our friends over at CrossFit on the River, you showing up with the family to support
that was so much fun.
them. Was it just Michaela in that?
Michaela was just in that.
Yeah,
but
so
Alex
like everyone showed up
they,
just to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And again, I love having you guys here and a part of this community. So thank you so much for being a part of it. Want to kind of wrap things up, and we usually just ask a pretty simple question. If you've listened to these, just what's your definition of success? You've had a lot of successes lately.
Oh gosh, I would say probably contentment and just living simply. Just being happy with what you have and grateful for what you have.
I think so many people, whenever they preach like online or whatever, no one preaches contentment. That's almost like you're never content. Like you're always, and there's so much benefit of that.
And it's something that you really have to dig deep to find because it's hard to not get caught up in.
What's next?
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for being on here today. Appreciate you stopping by. She's going to go rock out on
20.2.
20 point.
That's what's next for you.
Yeah. We're going to put this video and then her working out side by side. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to Triumph Every Day. Subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, and everywhere your favorite podcasts are found. Find us at triumphstrength.net, on Instagram at Triumph Strength, and Facebook at facebook.com/Triumph Strength. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Eleanor.
Thank you.